Here I'm going to talk about having a browser, in this case Microsoft Edge, and making it a bit simpler to find something by searching. Now there are a couple of things that come with it. You can search here, you can search up there, but they might not suit me. And there's a couple of other things that don't suit along here and down there. So we'll just take care of them as we go. So I'm going to get rid of these promoted links, and I'm going to get rid of this feed, or rather content. So that makes it a bit tidier. Now, what do I mean when I talk about searching? So let's say I want a book. I'm going to look up a book about, say, gardening, and it might be in the local libraries, but it might be in our university library. So I just say it'll be in Queen's Library. Click on this. Here we go. That's about, say, compost. Keep it simple. Now it took me a few steps to get there. Can we do better? I think we can. So if we look up here in this, somewhere it says compost, and it says it at the very end here. Okay, so I'm going to take everything, and then I'm going to go into the settings here. Okay. I'm going to look then for the settings that are about search. So we can see something here. It says search, and I go down here and it says search there, and it says search address bar, and so hopefully we're getting somewhere. Now one thing is, it says Bing is the search engine to be used in the address bar, and to be honest I prefer Google, so we're going to swap those. So that's already an advantage from my point of view, but in addition we can manage the search engines, which means add or remove them. So for example, I don't really use Yahoo search, so I can click on that and click remove, and I've changed to Google being the default. So if I wanted to search with Bing, I'd have to go to bing.com and so on. So let's just test here. If I type in compost, and we can see that it's searching on Google. And if I wanted to get Bing, I would have to go to bing.com and search for that book. That isn't convenient to have to go to bing.com. I'd rather if I could go a bit quicker, so I really have to search here for Bing to find it built in for me. So for some reason the shortcut is the same as the address. That's not very short from my point of view. So I'm going to put Bing and press save, and you can see there's this kind of string and it tells us something about it, but you can't edit it. It's a built-in. That's okay, it's a Microsoft one, but I've changed the shortcut, so it's just Bing. So now if I type in Bing and then press tab, the tab key on my keyboard, now it's going to search Bing. So if I look for the compost book and press enter, that search has taken place on Bing. We can see it in the top left. Whereas, by default, if I went to my address bar and typed compost book, that search would take place on my default search engine, which I've changed to be Google. So the shortcuts allow us to change to another search engine, which isn't our default one. So that is convenient. There are built-in ones. These are the built-in ones, but the one that's not built in is Queen's Library, as you can imagine. So I would like it to be built in. So I'm going to call it Queen's Library, and I might call it QUBL for the shortcut. It's up to you what shortcut you get. And then I'm going to paste in there the whole string I copied from before. And if we remember, we said the word compost is in there somewhere, and it's right at the very end. So I'm going to remove the word compost, and I'm going to put %s instead, because it says put your URL with %s in place of the query, and my query was compost. So now I'm going to put %s in place of compost. So now that's gone in there. You can see it's QUB library with the shortcut QUBL, and I could carry on. I could add another one for the local libraries, but let's test this first. Okay, so I'll just hop over here and type QUBL, press the tab key, and now I'm going to look for the compost book. So that's good. We've been able to search very simply, And if I decided that I wanted my search to be at the NI local library instead, or NI public library, I could go over there. I could choose catalogue because we want to search the catalogue, and then search for a book about compost. I don't need to tell it's a book. So we can see this long URL. So again, you could just copy that, and somewhere in there is the word compost. And we're going to go back to settings, click on it. The URL goes in at the bottom there. Then I'm going to look for the word compost, which is our query, and we're going to remove that. We won't do anything with the other stuff. There's a lot of other stuff you can ask an AI what it is to break down each of the components, and you could delete the other ones that are superfluous if you find you don't want them. But there's my %s put in instead of compost. I'm going to call that search engine NI public library. Then I'll put a shortcut which might just be library, as long as I haven't used that word before. I'm fine. So now if I open up a new tab and I do type the word library and press tab, it should allow me to search the NI public libraries book catalogue for a book on compost, just like that. So that's nice, and that's more convenient. But it doesn't have to stop there. It could be anything. It could be any search you use. It doesn't have to be that of a library. I just think libraries are nice, so I've used that example. So I'm just going to pause there, and now I'm back. I've made a few extra tabs here. So these are ones where I've used Amazon to search all of Amazon for a compost book, and I could take that URL, copy that, hop over here, and add that. So that would be an Amazon shortcut, and maybe I don't know, AMZ, whatever makes sense to you. Then put the URL in there, and again replace where we find the query, which was compost book. Put %s. In fact, in this it appears in two places, so if I did %s here, that wouldn't be enough. That's the second one, and the less important one. I think the real bit is at the front. There's a lot of bump behind it that you don't really need, so this is probably where the magic happens. So make sure you find where it really is. It needs to be in there. So we've got all that. We can click add, and that should work. I just test it, make a new tab, type AMZ, now search compost book, there we go, and that's working fine. If we wanted instead not to search the whole of Amazon, just to search books, if we know, for example, that we always search for books, we don't use it for much else, we can instead, or as well, just filter here to books in the first place and search, say, for compost, just for books. But we've got a different URL here to copy. And as you know, same as ever, we paste it in there, we remove the word compost, we put in %s again somewhere. That is %s in both places, you get the idea, if it's in more than one place. So if I do a new tab and do AMZ books, press tab, okay, you can see it says search for books only. That's what I called it, so that's quite nice. So what I showed you was an Internet Explorer, but here if I look in Chrome, you can do the same thing in Chrome. It's just that you have to go find it in a slightly different menu. So if I look down here and I look for settings, when I find settings I'm looking for search engine, and here it tells me that I can manage search engines here, and now we can see the same stuff as we saw in Edge. So I could delete the Yahoo one, for example, and I could add one of these that I have saved. So I'm going to go and put a site into the Google Chrome form here. So I'm just going to go open up one of the ones you've got here, like this Amazon one. So we're just copying now from the Edge into Chrome. Why not take this one and edit that, which will allow us to select everything there and copy. Remember, our shortcut is QBL. I'll press cancel, so I'm not changing anything. Leave that alone. I'll tab back to Google Chrome. In the setting, I'm going to put the URL in here. the shortcut we just said was QUBL, so I'll type it in there, and the name Queen's Library I'll type in here. So now that should be in there. There it is. Okay, so if I open up a new tab, I can type the shortcut into this Chrome tab, press the tab key, and there you can see it does say search Queen's Library and I'm searching for a book about compost or whatever it is that you want to search about. It would also be the same with Firefox. It'll have its own settings too. So here I am on a blank page in Firefox. I can click on this menu, go down to settings. I can see here that there will be settings, something about search, and apart from the default search engine it'll have, if I scroll down here, I'll have search shortcuts and this kind of thing. It's the same. I can add in here one for Queen's Library just as I did before. Again, same format. Well, will it be? Let's see. We're just putting in the URL there in that box. Search engine name, QUB Library, and as shortcut. So could again keep it constant, QBL, so it's the same across each browser. In this case, if you have several installed, that'll be a lot simpler. So QBL, press tab, doesn't work. So now there is a difference here in Firefox. What is the difference? We see the others that are built in, they all have the @ sign, the @ sign in front. So now I can go in here and I can put the @ sign in front of it, and I can go back to the tab and I can see how that works. So with the @ in front of it and QBL, press tab, there we go. We can see now I can search for compost again and it will produce that as a query in Queen's Library, searching Queen's Library. So all the browsers offer this kind of functionality. I hope that saves you some time. You could do it for anything. It's just in Firefox you need the little @ at the front. So I just need to put the little @ in front of those things there if I've put something else in there. So there you go. That's nice. We can test it out. Okay. Nice. Okay, so that should help.